Hi, friends. Good morning. It's so good to see y'all. Welcome. I've been getting some feedback that maybe it's a little bit hard to hear me while we're practicing the yoga part. So, if you will just do me a favor and just notice for yourselves if it's hard at all, I'm just going to do what I regularly do today. But if you notice that it's hard to hear the cues as we're doing the yoga part, then just let me know, okay? And we'll adjust microphone and other such things. Okay, so those are our worldly concerns. And now we're going to go into a different kind of place together. But, I've been thinking a lot about this how, like, in order to prepare for the prophetess role and in order to prepare for journeying into the realms of spirit and intuition, we have to sort of like have our shit taken care of, you know? We've got to like have gotten the sleep that we need and drank the juice that we need and fed our cat. And like, it's like the practicals actually bring us to the spirit work. And sometimes we forget about one or the other, right? And the truth is that they're both meant to be in sweet coexistence. And one of the invitations of the prophetess, I think, as I've been sitting with her and learning her, is that the way to spirit and the way to depth and the way to profound wisdom that feels true to us and meant for us is not by transcending the body, but it's by moving into and through the body. And as such, we often receive some of these messages of intuition, of divine guidance through the body itself. So that is wacky because for so many millennia, we have been taught, especially in the yogic tradition, and this is the interesting intersection of Jewish faith and yogic tradition, we've learned for so many years, I think in Judaism too, but particularly in yogic tradition, that like we're trying to reach this enlightenment place, right? That moves beyond the body, outside of the body, to something that is permanent, right? And rightfully so, right? The body is certainly not permanent. I've been in this body for almost 36 years, and what I can say is it changes every single day. So I know that to be true. And to move above is different than to move through. And just see if you can feel the truth of that in your system. Like the pull to kind of move above or to avoid actually kind of traversing through, right? Traveling through. And how actually wonderfully convenient it feels sometimes and very appropriate for us to just kind of soar above. Like, at family Thanksgiving, if your relatives voted for someone that you didn't vote for, right? Or whatever the case may be, that there are times when actually, in therapy, we might call it dissociating or spacing out or floating away, and it can get a bad rep, but it's actually deeply protective, right? And so that's to say that when our environment is not safe and supported and cozy and nurtured, that it makes a lot of sense for us to leave the body. And that is a beautiful tool that we have. The invitation of the prophetess is the opposite of that. And I'd like to think that the prophetess knows that we don't always have the capacity to hear her speak through us. That even sometimes when she's trying, like she's nudging us with that like persistent low back injury or that like feeling of like mobilization deep in the umbilicus space, right at the center of the belly. There may be times when we opt in and opt out of hearing her because of what is happening in our surroundings. And what I want to say is that's okay. That makes so much sense and is deeply appropriate. And what I'm talking about today with the prophetess is the invitation, not for always and forever, but for the moments where we feel ready and when our surroundings give us the feedback that we are able to go deep and go through. That when we have that safety and support, and often that comes from community of some kind. It could be like community with your plants and your cat and the items in your house that create deep safety and comfort. It could be community with a circle of people that you love and adore, like this community, right? But whatever it is, when we can have that felt sense of support around us, whatever it is that has to kind of grip when we don't have that, is allowed to sort of soften and release. And I believe, based on what I've been reading, that this is the state in which the prophetess can most easily and fully speak through us and to us. So we welcome her when she is available and when we are available, knowing always that something being available all the time actually doesn't always feel that exciting, right? So there's actually something marvelous about the fact that not always do the circumstances allow intuition to speak through us deeply. And when they do, we are invited to be moved and changed by it. One of the practices that I was reading about through the prophetess is this practice of mystical weeping, which I think is just like I'm like gonna cry just thinking about the idea of it, right? But like mystical weeping, maybe in community, as an incubation technique to clear the soul and also clear the grip, right, that we have in our daily life and late stage capitalism and moving through the world, so that we can actually open up to receiving messages. And I would argue that the physical asana practice of yoga is also a type of mystical weeping, is it not? Right? With the body and the breath and the thoughts sort of like, just shaking out, almost like we are this weeping willow tree and like little dewdrops, each little piece of hardness or resistance that was so well crafted to protect us gets to kind of drip out so that we might have unencumbered leaves and branches to be able to receive deeply profound and ancestral wisdom through our veins, through our blood, through our nadis, the channels that prana flows through the body. So Neviah, the prophetess, she brings with her this inspiration, this capacity to have ecstatic experience through hearing truth. You and I both know that hearing truth is not always a very comfortable process, right? Often we're hearing things that we've done a very good job of avoiding hearing up until now because we were not ready or because the world wasn't ready to hear it through us, right? There are a billion reasons why resistance can come up. And rather than us getting critical about why resistance is there, what we can say is, okay, fair. There's resistance, and then there are moments where we have the opportunity to let that armor relax so that we can receive unencumbered. So I'll just invite you to think about if there were a benevolent mother voice that spoke through you in times of change, of hardship, of injustice, of joy, when you're in the woods, when you're making love, when you're moving your body in a joyful way, when you hear your favorite band play live after several years of COVID, right? All of this is actually the same experience where we are ripe and ready to have intuition bubble up through and in and around us. And how do we open the door to welcome that wisdom? In this tradition from the faith that I'm speaking from, it comes in the form of the feminine, but you can choose any form that resonates for you. But let yourself just take a moment, especially if you have a relationship with your mother that maybe is like a little bit complicated, like most of us, to imagine the mother, not your mother, right? I mean, your mother if she brings you deep comfort, right? But otherwise, the mother of all mothers, who is deeply connected to the archetype of caring through speaking truth, right? Not always convenient truth, not always comfortable truth, but truth nonetheless. And imagine that she is deeply, deeply benevolent. She is here to bring with her care and honesty in a world that often thrives off of sort of masking and hiding. So how, I often think about how we say to people who come forward in the world with truth about racism, truth about sexism, truth about transphobia, all of these different things. Wow, they're so brave. It's true. In this world, they are brave. But I would also like to imagine a world where that wasn't like the exception, right? Where we didn't have to sort of exclaim, oh my gosh, this is so rare that someone comes forward as a prophetess and speaks truth bravely, even when other people are not. But rather that we said, oh yes, like the weaver, this is part of a larger tapestry of truth that we're all speaking together. And so you might just invite this most healed version of the mother to speak through you during this practice, right? And maybe this just gives you a different way to engage with the idea of the mother archetype while we practice, right? Especially if your mother in particular is a challenging mother, right? For 1,000,000,001 reasons. The gift of the prophetess is that she does not shy away from injustice. She sees clearly what is happening. And injustice might be that you are not able to experience the fullness of your body in nature and in the world because you have been so bound for so long, right? So part of unraveling injustice is changing systems of oppression around us, but it's also the gift of unraveling. Last week we were talking about weaving, and this week we're talking about unweaving, right? To make space for truth and clarity and the rhythm of our soul to speak, sometimes words that we don't understand yet. This is a big part of how the prophetess speaks, is she's not always speaking our language. So we hear how she communicates and we get curious. We don't demand an answer. This is about receiving deep wisdom before we have the logic to go with it. What a gift in this logic-filled world to have the invitation, to hear that inkling inside of the body or the breath or the throat, and to say, oh, what a profound invitation. It might inspire fear. It might inspire joy and ecstasy. It might inspire both. We welcome those things as the gifts that the prophetess brings us when we are listening and when we are ready. So you might bring your hands together at some place on the body that feels a little bit braced for you at the start of today. And just checking out, not forcing yourself to be in a place of safety, but instead just inviting. Is this bracing about where I am right now? Or is it about where I have been for the past day, week, months, years, lifetimes? And can I invite my system to just orient to what I'm experiencing in this moment? And if there is even 1% of me that feels curious or open to let something come through. You could start with Om or any other sound that feels right to you. Take a deep breath in. And when you're ready, we'll make our way to downward facing dog. Like always and forever, everything I say, especially in the physical, but also in the spiritual, is an invitation. So you take it or leave it. What feels good to you? Downward facing dog is where we'll start. If you need some poses to get there, by all means, but just give yourself a little walkabout here. Again, not rigidly holding, but just giving yourself room to sort of wiggle your tush, wiggle your arms, wiggle your legs, and let the vestiges of bracing soften down into the earth if they feel ready to let go, like a ripe cucumber on the vine, right? The prophetess shows up when there's space for her, which is what was so profound about the retreat that I took in the woods. Was when I made space, she showed up every day. So deep, full breaths, ujjayi breath, like you're sipping air in through a straw. Mouth might stay closed if that feels resonant for you, in and out through the nose, just to purify and clarify what you're drawing in, to make sure that what you're taking in is meant for you. And when you're ready, come forward to high plank. Bring your shoulders over your wrists. Deep, full breaths. Just feel into your low belly here. I'm sure it can talk to you in this shape, right? What parts of you are bracing here that don't need to? Can there be a little heart melt between your shoulders? Good, and then lift your hips, downward facing dog. Stretch your right leg up and back into the sky, big breath in. And then step your right foot outside your right hand. Your back knee can stay lifted. Pull your outer right hip back a little bit. Bump your left hand out to the left, reach your right arm up towards the sky for a twist. So we can't force intuition to occur, right? We're just opening up the container so that something is possible here. So that the deep wisdom of the healed mother can speak through us when and if they're ready. You can drop your back knee and swing your right arm back behind you. You could just reach in the direction of that foot, or you could reach back to clasp the foot and hug it in close towards your left glute. Maybe turning your gaze gently over your right shoulder. Slow, deep breaths. Good. Gently release that back foot. Hands plant on the earth. Tuck your back toes. Sweep your right leg up and back. Bend your knee. Stack your hips. Right knee pointing up towards the sky. And then slowly, if you like, your right foot could take you over for flip dog. Walk your feet in so heels are under the knees. And then peel open. Right arm reaches up and back. Slow, deep breaths. When you're ready, unflip, downward facing dog. Come forward to high plank. Again, just check out what parts of the body need to be working to support you. This is perfect. And then where can you soften? Maybe widening your sitting bones a little bit back towards your heels, softening your fingers to the support of the earth. Lift your hips, downward facing dog. Left leg up and back into the sky. And step your left foot outside your left hand. You could scoot your right hand a little out to the right and lift your left arm skyward. Slow, deep breaths from your center out. And the truth is, in this process with the prophetess, there's no right way to open to magic, right? Because essentially, she is the one who brings magic with her. And in doing so, she not only brings magic, but she brings the knowledge that we can access magic, which sometimes I think is actually more powerful than the magic itself, right? The knowledge that we do have a connection to deep divinity and the threads of the universe. Drop your back knee, reach back for the bind if you like, any variation. I think in many ways this surprises us at this point in history, because we've been trained to sort of believe that we are existing in the world of the normal. And in many ways we are, right? And I deeply believe that interchanged in the fabric of our world, of our bodies, of the floor and the earth underneath us, is the threads of magic. And so the prophetess brings with her the knowledge that we are actually interwoven with sacred stuff. Release your back foot when you're ready. Take your time, hands plant, left leg up and back into the sky, and just feel what it's like. All twisted and then deeply open. Melt your heart back towards your shin. Soften. If you like, you could flip your dog. If it doesn't feel right, skip it. Gut feelings in the realm of the prophetess are guardian angels. So we trust when we feel something, even if we don't have a lot of reasoning around it, we trust that it is true and it is important to hear. Lift your heels, bend your knees, come up to the top of the mat after you unflip, take your time. And a forward fold, feet hips width apart. You can clasp opposite elbows and let your head hang heavy here. So what would it require in your life to orient to gut feelings as guardian angels? Just check it out for a moment. For me, I think it requires halfway lift when you're ready. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, rise all the way up to standing, reach tall. And hands to your heart for mountain. For me, I think it requires listening to detail more fully and being with the truth that sometimes intuition coming through is deeply inconvenient, right? That to hear the threads of magic and the invitations of the prophetess is to hear things that pull us out of our practical everyday life. I'm like, I gotta go write that paper, or I gotta go see that client. But here I am receiving intuition. And how do I hold both things to be true? That I exist in this world and that there is more than just what is happening right in front of me that is speaking to me at any given moment. Chair pose when you're ready, sit back. So here we are, dropping down into the earth, but also reaching up into the heavens. And can you just feel that there is enough space in your body for both to lift up and open to what is celestial and also feel deeply rooted in your seat, deeply rooted in the earth and in your practical support. Slow, deep breaths. You are held here. We might be uncomfortable, we might be uncertain, and nonetheless we are deeply held. Hands to your low back, zip your fingers together, interlace. Inhale, open your chest. Exhale, fold forward. Ugh. Let yourself surrender. Hands lift up and over your head. If it feels wobbly, take your feet a little wider. You can always find more rooting in the earth to help ground you as you're doing this exploration of listening more fully to Spirit speaking through you. Release your hands when you're ready. Toes out, heels in, Malasana yogic squat. I would argue actually that every single yoga pose has elements of both. The prophetess and the earth goddess, the earth mama, right? Here we are deeply rooting into the soles of the feet, pelvic floor opening and expanding, but still with these vibrant threads that are holding us and supporting us from underneath. And by seeping into the earth, like a magical potion that we add to a garden, we're able to lift up through the heart, lift up through the throat, lift up through the head. And then switch it, forward fold. Your tush lifts so your head can release, right? Finding ways to root in certain parts of the body or certain parts of life so that other parts can be really free to lift and open and expand. And also not getting confused that rooting means not expanding, because feel what your feet can do here. Tighten them really hard. Squeeze your toes. Feel what they're like. They're like little claw tendons here. Not really taking advantage of the support the earth has to offer. And now release them. Spread your toes wide. Expand through your heels and feel how soft your feet can be, how much information they can draw up from the earth underneath the foundations of your house here. Each time we step, it's not created equal. Sometimes it's deeply contracted, right? And sometimes it is flowing down and in to receive the information underneath us. Halfway lift, deep breath in. Step your right foot back. High lunge, lift up. So in each shape, we get to explore this balance above and below. Interlace your fingers, press the heels of your hands up towards the sky as you stretch back through your right heel. How is your right shoulder in relationship to your right hip flexor here? Can you feel them drawing away from each other and also drawing towards each other? Good. Open your arms, twist to the left. Left arm back, right arm forward. Send a plumb line down from your tailbone to the earth so that the twist comes from the belly up and your low back is supported. And then windmill around, warrior two, arms open. Yeah, soften your jaw, flip your palms. Exalted warrior, reach up and back. Extended side angle when you're ready. Reach long and forward. Left elbow can rest on the left knee. Moving with your breath. Inhale, exalted warrior. Exhale, extended side angle. Yeah, reach long. Exalted warrior. Half moon, take your time. You're gonna step onto your left foot. Grab your water bottle or your block. Support yourself under your left hand and launch. So this is, again, why blocks become so important in this practice. Because if we are actually finding flight, in some ways the most important part of that practice is finding earth first. And blocks or VHS tapes or whatever you've got, bring the earth to you. What a gift it is to have it available so that we might be able to tap into what is floating in the air and ready for us to receive. God, y'all, chair pose, right foot meets the left. Stretch your arms all the way to standing, hands to heart. Take a big breath in. Stick out your tongue, let it go. We'll make that a little bit bigger. Inhale, hands to heart. Exhale, tongue open, arms open out to the side. We'll do that a couple times. Inhale, hands to heart. Lion's breath, arms open wide. One more time, deep breath in. Release, let it go. Reach your arms up, big breath. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Step your left foot back. Firm up your back thigh. When you're ready, high lunge, lift your arms. If it feels good, you could interlace your fingers. You could stretch the heels of your hands up towards the sky as you soften your shoulders down your back. Slow exhales that just give you space to breathe into the full container of your body and check out what's here. This gentle scan helps us to know, right, where we're at, not so that we can judge, but so that we can allow. Gently release the hands, twist open to the right, right arm back, left arm forward, soft bend in the right knee. Warrior two, when you're ready, open your arms. Feel your feet Melt and soften towards the support of the earth. Flip your palms. Exalted warrior, reach up and back, inhale. Extended side angle, exhale. Inhale, exalted warrior, lift up and back. Soften into the bend in your right knee. Yeah, extended side angle, exhale. Take your time, exalted warrior, lift up and back. On your exhale, ground into the earth through your right foot and let the earth help you to launch forward for half moon. If you've ended up off your mat like me, you can always just step back and reset. You don't lose anything by pausing here. In fact, I would say that pausing is one of the most profound practices to invite the prophetess in. Chair pose when you're ready. Because she speaks to us, sometimes with a yell, but often with a whisper first, to check out what is available. Cactus your elbows, sink a little deeper. Feel above and below here. So if we slow down when we hear that whisper, we often hear it come through again, but much brighter and much stronger. Inhale, reach up, arch back all the way up to standing. Exhale, let it go, fold forward. Halfway lift, deep breath in. Step back to high plank, take your time. Checking in with this shape, maybe a little warmer in the body. See if there's anything else that wants to melt or soften here. And downward facing dog, exhale. Right leg up and back into the sky. Step your right foot forward, warrior one. Palms together above you or interlace the fingers again. Press the heels of the hands up towards the sky. Again, we'll twist open to the right. Good, straighten your right leg. Bring your right hand to your right hip. And then reach out and forward for revolve triangle. Hand can come down to your block, inside your right foot. Right arm could reach up towards the sky. Let your head lean back a little bit. In a challenging balance pose, there's a tendency to sort of crunch in and make it tight. So how do we invite spaciousness inside of this receiving shape? When you're ready, right hand comes down. Bend your back knee, drop your left knee to the earth. Lift your arms, you're in low lunge. Half camel, left arm swings back to your left tush, thigh or heel, whatever's available. And then right arm lifts up. Maybe gaze lifts slightly. If you want to, you could add that same kind of variation, squeezing the heel towards your bum cheek, but you gotta come forward of the kneecap so that you don't put too much pressure there. My left knee can do it, my right knee is having none of it, right? So play around with it and let your body tell you what it means. When you're ready, windmill your hands back down and forward. Half splits, shift your weight back. Point and flex your right foot a bit. Just feel a stretch on the top of the calf and the back. Good. Plant your hands, tuck your back toes, sweep your right leg up and back into the sky. Knee comes underneath the body to the left tricep, squeeze it under, and then thread it through for fallen triangle. You're on your right hand, lift your left arm up. Big breath in. Full breath out. One more inhale. Stay for longer if you like, otherwise, downward facing dog. Come forward to high plank. Slow lower all the way onto your belly, however you like to get there. Gentle cobra. Exhale to lower. Again, like that gentle cobra. Hug your hands in towards your navel as your heart and sternum reach forward. Exhale to lower. Sweep your hands to your low back. Interlace your fingers. Reach your knuckles back towards your heels. And then lengthen along the earth to lift your torso and lift your legs. So the more we can find the earth here, the more spaciousness there might be available in the back body. Rest when it feels right. Come down onto one ear. Let your belly and hips hug the earth. And then we'll take another locust pose if it feels right. Awkward thumb on top, so other thumb. Interlace. And inhale to lengthen and find some space. Again, you might feel your sits bones widening and reaching back towards your heels. As opposed to curling up towards the sky, they're lengthening back. We're making space for depth in practice, in the body, in the breath. Rest when you're ready, other ear down to the earth. You might be able to feel your heartbeat against the floor. Child's pose, seat to heels. Let your knees come nice and wide so your belly can melt between your legs and your forehead can soften towards a block or towards the earth. Spread your fingers wide. Honor your own timing here. Rest for longer if that feels right. Up to tabletop, a little cat-cow. Maybe some gentle circles in the hips here. Part of the magic of the prophetess is spontaneity, right? We can prepare, we can move slowly to make space for her, but also some of it is just being willing to move with what is here right now. So that also includes like improvisational movement and song and sound and connection that we can't always plan for magic. In fact, sometimes too much planning sort of makes magic hard to access. So we explore what it's like to be spontaneous in the body and breath as much as we're able. Downward facing dog when you're ready. Big breath in through your nose. Lion's breath, stick out your tongue. Left leg up and back into the sky. Big inhale. Step your left foot forward. Find the ground first with your feet. And then lift up for warrior one. Maybe interlace, heels the hands up, or any other arm expression that feels good here. And as soon as I reach my arms up, I can feel my chest and my collarbones wanting to help me, right? Sometimes the best way to help is to soften and find the earth. Twisting open when you're ready, left arm back, right arm forward. And rather than judge ourselves for the tension that we hold, or sometimes really orienting to needing to stay contracted, the gift of the prophetess is that she looks at us and says, oh, of course you've been tight. Of course you've been bound in this world. I offer you this little omen of a message so that you might know that something magic is coming. Something worth hoping for is coming. So a tiny little bit of you can release. Straighten your left leg, left hand to your left hip, reach long, feel your belly stretch, and then right hand comes down to the earth for revolve triangle. Right hand down, left arm up. prophetess, I do think about my mom because I remember being an incredibly anxious little 8-year-old and having her look at me and say, one day you will have the answers to the questions you're asking. I know it feels forever away, but they're coming. And I think this is what the prophetess says. She says, I'll give you a morsel, just enough so that you know you're not alone here. Just enough to know that there's something beyond the place where we are in this moment. And how ironic that in order to find that, we have to arrive in the moment itself, right? When you're ready, your left hand can come down, bend your back knee, drop your knee to the earth, and just walk your hands up your left thigh. Untuck your back toes. When you're ready, arms can lift up skyward. This might be the perfect heart opener for you, lifting the heart, lifting the gaze. If you want to explore, you could swing your right arm back to your thigh or calf. I like to have a block here or some kind of support in case I want to bring my hand a little lower. Or you've got the opportunity, woof, this is the tough side, to reach back for your foot and just check it out. See what feels right for your system here. Rushing ourselves to evolve or know more than we know or be more open than we are does not serve any spiritual purpose. In fact, it actually makes it harder for us to hear when offerings are made by the spirit world. Wiggle, twist, give yourself a little mobility here to play. This isn't a static shape, and neither are you, right? And eventually we'll land in half splits, hands down to the earth. You can find your way there in your own way. Point and flex your left toes. You might feel a calf and shin stretch as you alternate. And when you're ready, slowly rebend your front knee. Tuck your back toes. Left leg sweeps up and back. Shake it out. Knee comes under your body to the right tricep. Hug it in close. And then thread it to the right. Lift your right arm up. Fall in triangle. Make it an open triangle with the legs here. Can your throat soften? Take a big breath in. Hand to the earth. Step your left foot back, downward facing dog. Melt your forearms down to the floor. If you've got a block or a book, this is a great place to squeeze it between your thumb and second fingers, just like this. Just helps to wrap the shoulders onto the back. So you could do that on the earth here. You're grounding into your forearms. And you might walk your feet in a little bit closer if that's a nice stretch on the calves or the hamstrings. Slow, deep breath. Part of opening to new possibilities and magic is play. So if you feel like you want to play, you could step one foot in a little bit and lift your other leg up towards the sky and lift and lower in your bottom foot up onto the ball of the foot and back down. Slow, steady breath to support you. At some point you can switch legs. Good, y'all. Both feet come back down to the earth. Walk them back towards the back of the mat. You're in forearm plank here. Drop your knees. Untuck your toes. Sphinx pose. Wiggle your tush a little bit so again your sits bones can widen and reach back towards your heels and your hands. You could do that same thing where you make them really tight, sort of claw into the earth and feel how little support there can be, and then melt from the center of the palm out, down into the floor, and see how much earth contact you can make. The funny thing is that when I was thinking about how do we invite the prophetess in, all I could think about was the earth. I think it's because the work and the musings of the prophetess are not things that I or you can control. These are the spontaneous moments of intuition and clarity that come through. And there's, even with deep intention and learning around it, there's no way we can sort of conjure that up on a Tuesday morning in particular. What we can do, though, is find our roots, find our supports, so that we're ready and open to receive when it's time. So just feel here from your umbilicus, from your belly button, the roots extending down into the earth and expanding out. Just watch them web and grow out. They might even loop back up and wrap around your arms and your legs to provide you more soft, mossy cushion, letting you know that your non-human kin are here to hold and to celebrate the ways in which you're unfolding. Good, and maybe there's some part of that you can stay connected to as you come all the way down to the earth. Bend your knees, reach back for the outer edges of your ankles, and hug your legs in towards center, just because they have the natural tendency to stretch wide and strain the knees. When you're ready, press your shins back. You'll feel an opening in the shoulders. You might stay close to the earth, or you might keep pressing back until your belly and chest start to lift up. Slow, deep breaths down into your belly, and just feel the challenge of expanding down into something that's so solid, right? The belly sort of has to stretch out in every direction to find space. Release when it's time. Windshield wiper your feet side to side. Stretch your legs back, child's pose, knees out wide. And then walk your hands back. Come to sit on your heels. So I'll show you from front. I'm sitting on my heels, the knees are wide. You could put a blanket under your tush, between your tush and your heels. If this is a great stretch for your quads and knees, perfect. Stay right there. For me, this is pretty much it today. But there is another variation of this called saddle pose from Yin, which is where, upon sitting on your heels, you might set up a little palace behind you of blocks and bolsters and start to walk your hands back and recline, maybe even lying all the way back. My low back is having a whole lot of none of that today, so really, there's nothing more holy about going farther. There is, however, something incredibly sacred about dropping in and hearing what your body is actually telling you. In addition to that just being really valuable biofeedback, I think also, as I've been reading this week, that all of the somatic practices that we have of presencing and attuning to the body are in preparation for greeting the prophetess. That by attuning so compassionately and lovingly to the way that our body speaks through us, we can both know where we're at and honor the place of growth that we're at, whatever stage of unfolding in the flower we are, without judging it or asking it to move more quickly. And we can then know when something spontaneous and new, a piece of inspiration, a piece of wisdom from the ancestral world or from beyond comes through, because we've been listening so closely to our own energy that we can notice when a new ingredient has been incorporated into the cauldron. And we can even maybe choose, am I welcoming that ingredient in Am I not quite ready yet? Okay, I can ask it to pause, I can negotiate. Depending on how strong the intuition is, it may or may not be ready to negotiate, right? Good, y'all. And then standing tall on the shins, whenever you're ready. If you're reclined, you could stay right here. We'll take camel pose, hands to the low back. Rather than just dropping back, right? I want you to think about your fingertips lifting the bottom ribs. So you're lifting up, you've got a ribbon all the way around your lower back and lower belly, and it's supporting you deeply as you arc up and over it. Slow, deep breaths. Good. Inhale to rise up, hands down in front of you. A little wiggle if you like. On your way back to downward facing dog. Stretch your left leg up and back into the sky. Step your left foot forward. Warrior two. Wiggle the arms open. Straighten your left leg. Triangle pose. Reach long with your left hand. Left hand down, right arm up towards the sky. And we'll just make a big circle. Right arm reaches past your right ear. Take time to linger there. And then arm circles down and around and up towards the sky. And almost like you were going to take a circle in the opposite direction, the right arm is going to lift you up to standing. Widen your feet a bit, toes in, heels out. Interlace your fingers at your low back. Inhale, lift your heart, drop your tailbone. And then switch, drop your heart, lift your tailbone, hands lift up and over. Good, gently release the interlace. Bring your hands down to the earth, come up to hands, halfway lift. Right hand under your nose, lift your left arm up towards the sky, twist open. Hand could stay at your low back if you'd like to feel it supported or feel yourself breathing up into that hand. When you're ready, left hand can come down, replace the right with the left, switch sides. As I've been working on opening to the possibility of receiving information from the mystical and magical world, I've noticed that a hand on the body can really help. A hand to lift up into and expand out into. It just helps us to find an outside piece of input that actually gives us a lot of data about what's inside. Good, hand back down to the earth, fold in. This time, downward dog variation, walk your hands forward and melt your chest towards the earth. Your head can fall between your shoulders if that feels good. Don't worry too much about alignment here. Sometimes the alignment is the alignment of surrender. Surrender as the deepest act of strength. When we are held in safety and warmth. Walk your hands back in, halfway lift, hands to your hips, rise all the way up. Good, and warrior two to the back of your mat. Straighten your right leg. You might walk your back foot in just a little bit, and then reach long with your right hand for triangle pose. Stick your left bum cheek out and back towards your left heel just a little bit to make some space for your side body. And then if it feels right, some slow circles with the top arm. Good. When you're ready, rise up. Goddess pose, walk the feet in a bit. Interlace your fingers, press the heels of your hands up. As your pelvic floor softens towards the earth, it knows that place. It knows the caverns of wet soil, the places where things are born and sprout and imagined. Deep breath in and a lion's breath out. Straighten and lift. Walk your feet in. Just toe heel them together. Feet hips width apart. Standing on your right foot for tree pose, hug your left knee in towards your chest. If there's another balance pose you prefer today, by all means. Tree pose gives us a real chance to sort of embody what it's like to root down and also rise up. You might turn your gaze and palms skyward. Find the medicine you need in your own movement here. Let yourself stay connected to your own breath as you switch sides. You might keep your gaze the same or change it. What a gift to know that the wiggles and the wobbles are not taking us farther away from enlightenment or ascension or whatever it is that we're reaching for, but instead are bringing us closer to a truth, which is that when things are a little bit wobbly, there is enough room for things to be reorganized and put together in a more joyful way. If everything is so tight and fixed, we never have a chance to reimagine and rebuild. So the gift and the challenge of chaos, of the mess, of the wild. And how do we welcome that? As a sign that things that are old and outdated are being unearthed so that we can make room to build a new scaffolding. Release when you're ready. Hands together in front of your heart. Reach your arms up towards the sky. We're gonna roll up onto the balls of the feet. Notice if your tendency like me is to tighten immediately, what can soften here? And then your arms are gonna come parallel to the earth as you track your knees over your toes, boop, boop, and slowly start to lower down into a squat. Take your time. Yep, use your hands if you need it. Good, hands can come to your heart, Mula Bandhasana. So same thing as when we were seated, essentially the knees open up, the toes open up, and your heels are right at your root, supporting you. Now you can release in whatever way feels most safe and least injurious. You could bring the knees together and bring them down in front of you. You could roll back, whatever feels right. We're gonna come onto our backs. So take your time to rock over, lie onto your back, cross your right ankle over your left knee when you get there, and thread your arms through for figure 4. Flex your right foot, and if you want to deepen the sensation a little bit, you can move the whole package just slightly over to the left if you've got your right leg crossed on top. Hi, Theo. Hi, buddy. See if you could find some length in your back body along the earth here. And when you're ready, release that whole shape down. Keep the figure 4. Your right foot crossed over the left knee is just going to come all the way down to the left side. So the right foot is sort of planted and you're in a gentle twist, looking over your right shoulder, cactus your elbows on the earth. Hi, buddy. He was like, this is how you do it, everybody. Look, I'm demonstrating. Hi, yes. If you want to add on to the stretch, take that crossed right leg and extend it out long, out to the left, as you look over your right shoulder. Take your time, gently bend that knee again, come back through center. You might be able to feel some length on the right side. Cross your left ankle over your right knee, push the left knee away a bit, and then reach through to clasp the back of your right thigh. Maybe moving the whole package a little bit over to the right. Take as much time as you like here. When you feel ready to twist, you can release your hands, bring your foot back down to the earth, and then the left foot just keeps coming over to the right, coming down to the earth, and you can look over your left shoulder, arms open wide. If it feels good at any point, you can stretch this left leg out, prop it on a pillow or on your cat. Twists for me are a lot like prophetess work because we can't actually crank them out and find what we're looking for. We just set up the conditions to make space in the body, in the breath, and then we allow ourselves to soften, to be awake to the moment that is, and to be curious about what opening might be possible. I think this is what it means to be a modern day oracle, is inside of a culture that asks us to stop listening to ourselves, that we move intuitively and slowly enough to where we can hear these little messages from within. And when we remember that we actually have the threads of divinity moving through us, then we start to realize that those messages are us in our celestial form. They're not separate from divinity. They're not separate from what is helping the blossoms to grow on the tree out back behind my house. Those same forces are awakening and inviting us into what is opening and blooming, and also what is ready to be destroyed and released inside of our own ancestral web. To know what is ready to let go is just as important as to know what is blooming and ready to be birthed. Back through center when you're ready. Happy baby pose. And the prophetess is not afraid to tell us when it's time to let go. From happy baby, any final movements that feel right for your system here. Take your time. We're gonna do a meditation to call in some magic from Miriam, who is one of the original prophetesses. So you might like to lie back or take a seated meditation if that feels good to you. Completely up to you, wherever you feel most rooted in yourself. The gift of Miriam, who, according to the Bible, was Moses' sister, is that she danced and drummed and sang and spoke her people into feeling accompanied when they were deeply lost in the desert. She herself was so thirsty. It's not like she was like, oh, everyone else is thirsty, so I guess I'll bring them to water. This is not the way that we get free, is by being more, I don't know, elevated than other people. She herself was so thirsty that she would find wells springing up from the desert every place that they went. And I love this idea that to tap into the prophetess, we actually need to need. We need to have yearning. And that to have yearning is part of how we actually discover where magic lives, by necessity. I think this is often why those of us who have experienced hardship in our life, trauma and hurt and pain, during and after that experience are often tapped into magic in a different way. And I think it's because we have deeply experienced need. Need to make meaning, need to understand, need to be held, need to be safe. And from that sacred need comes an opening that allows us to discover the well, to discover the water, to discover the sacred nourishment. And along the way, of course, right? Why wouldn't it be that we're helping others to find their sacred nourishment too? Because we've had to find it for ourselves. So we can say, come along, come with me. You can drink this water too. What a gift to know that to be a guide, to be a prophetess, to be a healer, to be a holder of sacred space. We don't have to be anywhere other than where we are. We don't have to be out of the thick of it. We don't have to be healed. We don't have to be resolved. We don't have to know all the things. We just have to be open to needing. And in that need comes the capacity to receive the wisdom of how we find our nourishment. So wherever you are, if it feels right, you might let your eyes close or let your eyes come to rest on something that you love in the space around you, something that brings you comfort. And we'll take just a little spirit journey with the prophetess. You are standing at the entrance to a cave in the desert. You hear a drum beat within the cave. You enter. At the center of the cave is a well, a spring, or a pond. See it as you see it. Drink the water. Feel its healing power flow and grow within you. As you drink from the well, a woman appears beside you. She may be young or old, willowy or earthy, loving or stern. She guides you to each of the 4 walls of the cave. On or near the eastern wall, you see the young Miriam waiting by the Nile. The basket with the baby Moses floats near her. Your guide urges you, reach out and pluck a reed from the Nile. You bring the reed to your lips and blow. Notice the qualities of the sound, high or low, sweet or sad, mellow or sharp. Your song, the guide says. You blow and listen carefully, honoring this song. You turn to the north. Near the northern wall, you see Miriam dancing by the sea. Many beings with drums accompany her. A drum is at your feet. Your heart, the guide says. Strike the drum and listen to its sound. This is the strength of your heart. Give this strength an honored place inside you to be remembered. You turn to the west. Near the western wall, you see Miriam alone in the desert. Her skin is white and dry. Sand blows around her. She is writing in a scroll. Your truth, the guide tells you. Read the scroll, which contains your story. Take as much time as you need. You turn to the south. Near the southern wall, you see Miriam as an old woman resting inside a tent. Her eyes are closed. Around her are many loved ones. At the foot of her bed are many pebbles. Your dream, says her guide. You close your eyes and Miriam shares with you an image from her final dream. Your guide brings you back to the well at the center of the room. Thank her. She places her hands on your head and utters a blessing, giving you the gift of inspiration and trust. As you slowly reach the cave's entrance, turn back and look. The well has evaporated. A wind lifts you over the desert sands and carries you back to yourself. So just take a moment here to feel the truth of this well of inspiration, this well of clarity, this well of deep intuition that is beyond reason or facts. Things we know but don't have proof for. Let yourself trust that the well can reappear at any time when you need it. Know that you can call it in, and so too can the prophetess call it in and offer it to you. Let yourself rock a little bit side to side here, curling over onto one side when you're ready to hug your knees in and remind yourself that this body is the vessel through which we receive so much from the earth and from the stars. What a gift it is to be together and to do this practice of mystical weeping in one way or another, so that we might clear the channels that we can and make space for new inspiration and new offerings to come through. Take your time to linger here. If you'd like to rest for longer, you can feel free. If you feel ready to release, you can take your time to rise up, to bring your hands together somewhere on your body, to honor the things that are opening in you, the wisdom of your system to know when the time is ripe to receive deep, intuitive messages. It's such a gift to explore this magical and elusive, in many ways, archetype with you today. To just feel into these tiny little moments of illumination and inspiration, and to not demand that our whole day is full of them, but to just find the joy when they arise. I'm guessing that we probably have a little bit more work to do with the prophetess, and so I imagine that we'll return back to her next week. but it's such a gift to meet her with you. So thank you for your presence and your practice and your magical weeping that profoundly and exponentially illuminates this space. I'm so grateful for you all.